Welcome to Okcoin Live. I'm your host, Mandy Campbell, head of content and brand here, and I'm joined by Alex Chizhik, who is our head of listings. Thanks so much. And we have two really special guests today. We are going to be talking about being a Bitcoin parent with John Fakhoury and JC Crown. And they have started a really interesting project called Satscentives, which we're going to hear a little bit more about. But first, welcome to Okcoin Live. And we'd love to start with just hearing your story of how you came to Bitcoin and what attracted you to it.
You want to go first, JC? I think you got
Oh, I
here
mean,
first.
yeah, sure. I mean, it's kind of a long story, but short version, I've always kind of been deep into some of the more, I guess, technical stuff, especially when it comes to like decentralized tech, way before any blockchain stuff was out. And so when I saw the decentralization for money first happen, it immediately made sense to me. I didn't know a lot about hard money and all that stuff, the Austrian economic piece of it, but just in terms of how awesome it would be to have like a money for the internet that kind of had its own rules and couldn't be you didn't have to buy in through any political system, etc. That was really exciting to me. And so since getting into it, I don't know, a while ago, I've been really full time on Bitcoin and sometimes blockchain stuff for the last 5 years or so.
Amazing. And John, let's hear your story.
As the clouds parted one day and Satoshi came. No, I'm kidding, Mandy. Honestly, I run a tech services company, and one of the younger employees came to me and said, "You should check out this Bitcoin thing, boss." And had it been Carson instead of Jeremy, I probably would have bought Bitcoin like a year and a half earlier. But Jeremy was a terrible employee, and as he famously knows, still has kept his job mostly because he introduced me to Bitcoin. This is a true story. Jeremy's great, but yeah, Jeremy told me about Bitcoin. I bought it. I didn't know what the hell I was buying. I bought a bunch of the shit too, and I ultimately kind of learned my lesson from what was valuable and what wasn't through the dearth of the bear market. And without boring you too much, like I just kind of came to it in a pretty boring way. The one interesting tidbit I always appreciate about the story is while Jeremy talked to me about Bitcoin first, I got him to buy Bitcoin many years later. So I found out that he actually never even bought any Bitcoin, and it drove me nuts. And so I, famously got him off zero, even though he's the one that introduced me to Bitcoin. So that's a little fun part of the story.
That's how it goes, man. I talked to people about Bitcoin probably for about 2 years before I ever bought any of it. It's like, this is so cool. Look at this thing. And then, like, of course, I didn't buy any. It was really hard to buy. That wasn't like there was a exchange you go to. I mean, kind of, but not really.
Well,
Yeah,
shout
so
out to
not
Jeremy.
super exciting stories, but yeah, Jeremy has kept his job for a long time,
It's exciting for
unknowingly.
Jeremy. Yeah, no, shout out to Jeremy. He knew what was up. Very cool. Well, so today we're going to talk a little bit about being a Bitcoin parent, what that means to you, how you're talking to your kids about Bitcoin, maybe other cryptocurrencies if you're Alex. Um, Alex, so tell us a little bit about, how old are your kids? I'd love to kind of go around, talk to me about how old your kids are. Are you talking to them about Bitcoin? Do they have a concept of money or value even? What do we say to them? Mine are little. Mine are 1.5 and 3.5. So they're like starting to understand. I think money at like a very well, the 3.5-year-old at least is starting to understand a very high level. But I'd love to hear from you guys. I think you guys have maybe slightly older kids.
Do you guys know Lily's show, by the way? I'm sure all the hardcore Bitcoiners know Lily's show.
Yeah,
So
Yes.
yeah,
Lily,
Michael Saylor on all the big names.
so she's my story is a little bit weird in this whole Bitcoin world, but her parents are like tangential friends of mine through my cousin, uh, who I got into Bitcoin, which is not what you asked me, but I got him into Bitcoin. He bought it very early on and kind of left it. Then in 2016, I was like, man, you gotta do it. And now he runs Swan Bitcoin. So this is how it all
So
comes
you
together.
were the Jeremy for Jan then.
I was a Jeremy for Jan, and so Jan's friends, Paul, and actually I don't know his wife, Elena knows him very well. Our Elena, they have Lily show, and so Lily's the I guess the most famous kid that goes out there and does the Bitcoin interviews. My kids are a little older. They're 7 and almost 5, and they I don't tell them about Bitcoin per se. They just run around, they see all the paraphernalia, and they're like, "Oh, Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin." They just hear me talk about it all the time, so they know it. It's all by osmosis. They don't know any of the other coins. I mean, it's they don't need to for many reasons. No, not I'm not a full-on maxi. John is like nodding his head.
I'm not
I'm
giving
not
you
a
trouble.
full.
I promised Mandy, and I promised you at the steakhouse in Miami
Yeah,
last year
that's
that
true.
I was done giving it to you, and I was counting on Jan to be able to bring you back to Lord Satoshi.
That's right.
Well, Alex introduced Jan, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see how it
So
goes. But I promise, I'm gonna leave it alone.
I will
If you,
introduce him to Lord Doge, and he's gonna come back around all the way around.
Is that Elon?
Lord Doge would be Elon. That's right. I think Elon is. Oh my God. Well, he's gonna take over Twitter. Doge is coming to Twitter. I mean, this is exactly what's gonna happen. But look, we don't need to talk about Doge. So they I don't know. I don't actively tell them. It's kind of they don't fully understand the concept of money. They're starting to get that I need to work in order to get, paid in order to get them the things that, buy them the things that are around the house. But there's no concept of value per se. They don't know what things are worth. But yeah, they run around singing songs about Bitcoin and they make up in their heads and just, I don't know. What about you guys do? What are your kids doing?
oh man. Well, my kid, if you ask him what his dad does for a living, he'll say, talks about Bitcoin. That's all he knows. I mean, he knows what Bitcoin is. He's 4 years old. He knows you can buy car toys with Bitcoin. That's what he finds the little. I always like to collect from conferences the metal coins people make. Even no matter what it says on it, I just like all the little different coins. And so I don't know where they are now because he's like finds them and takes them, and I don't know where they go. But like sometimes he'll bring me some, and it's like, I got some money, Dad. Got some Bitcoin. You need to, give me some whatever toy. So he's like, he's kind of understanding that part of it. He also knows like what satoshis are and how many there are. He's got a pretty good memory for a 4 year old. But I mean, he seems to love Bitcoin. I think he's going to be a very good contributor when he grows up.
Maybe get him coding, get him to be a core
I do.
dev.
Like when he turns 5, I'm going to look into some of which is soon. I'm going to look into some of the kid coding stuff and see what we can do.
I love that.
Where did I go? Where did it go? There you are. Yeah, Mandy, my kids are your kids' age. We have similar mating patterns apparently in our household. So 1.5, 3.5, ROB4 hopefully soon, and or before long. Yeah, I mean, it's a really kind of like it's an impossible nexus not to cross, right? So part of the genesis of like JC and I working together on this thing is because we're Bitcoin dads trying to navigate being Bitcoin dads, right? So presumably, if you do this thing right, your kids don't have to deal with the same risk that JC and I did as kids. And I don't know what your upbringings were, but it was pretty crappy, financially, being in the circumstances that I know JC and I were in. And so, but luckily and gratefully, and my wife and I know we're blessed to not be in that circumstance, and our kids will be able to have a lot more insulation to some of the things that just weren't true for us. So, okay, well, how do I create the adversity? A lot of what made me and allowed me to kind of do some of the things that I've done and allow JC to, I think, I'm not trying to speak for him, but I think a lot of the makeup that he comes from is just having to overcome a lot. And so, I don't want my kids to have to do that. And so, like, how do I teach them? How can I like bridge this gap? And so, thinking about hard work, thinking about how I can create a value system, thinking about how I can say, okay, Daddy, I want unicorn rings and unicorn bracelets and unicorn this and unicorn that. Well, that's great. Well, I got lots of things I need help with, sweetheart. She's at an age now, Alex, where, and there was a little bit of a viral video. Mandy probably remembers, and JC, my daughter's in the backyard. She's frustrated with us, and she looks at my wife and she says, honey, or she goes, Mommy, I'm going to take your money, and Daddy, I'm going to take your Bitcoin. And Aria was probably like just a little over 2 at the time. And it was a very innocuous thing, right? Like in the moment, but it was clear to me that she started to understand it. Now, the other day I'm heading out to work, and she says, Daddy, I guess you can go to work and get some Bitcoin. And I'll send you the video, Mandy, after the podcast. But it's just that she's already reformed her mind into like, it's one of the things that makes me so hopeful about the world. It's just like we're arguing about things on the margins, whether it's this piece of vaporware or real money, or whether it's some boomer who's left in as Jack Mahlers would call, like, diners club land or whatever. It's just like, here's the deal. We all have kids. They're not going to have to figure this out. It's just going to be innately what they grew up with, right? No different than they can swipe through my like iPad and get to like chip and potato and number blocks and cocoa melon with incredible proficiency. They'll be able to navigate, living in a Bitcoin world, and they'll probably be part of what brings it. And so, without being too much more long winded, I'm just kind of in this place where I'm watching this 1.5, 3.5 year old kind of become little humans. And I'm starting to project out in the world where, like, they're not even going to be thinking about a lot of these things, or having to choose between some of these things, or like being even forced to like navigate. Oh my God, am I going to buy Bitcoin? Of course not. I own Bitcoin. It's how I live in my world. And so that
I
makes
just
me really
wanna
excited about it.
I want to give you some props for just dropping Coco Lemon in there, like as if just kind of going with it. That was pretty solid. Yeah, that was a
They'll send
that
they'll
was
send
a
a check to us later. Don't worry.
no, but
We're
that was a great
sponsored by
one.
Coco Melon now.
Yeah, Coco Melon.
Coco Melon has solved about 40 to 50 tantrums in this household at least.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I do get the sense that my 3.5-year-old has connected Bitcoin to my work, because the other day we were walking and she said, when I become a grown up, I want to go to Bitcoin like you. So she thinks that it's a place. And
It's
I
a
think
place. It's a
it's a
place
place.
up
Yeah, it's
here.
kind of a place for all of us, I guess. So, I mean, you guys are working on a pretty cool project that actually relates to a lot of what John was just talking about, of, you know, understanding the connection between hard work and, potentially incentives. And there's this concept of a piggy bank and like doing chores. And maybe we used to get a nickel or maybe $1, depending on when you were born and what inflation was like. But tell us a little bit about Satscentives and how you came up with the idea, what the product is, and where people can find it.
JC, why don't you kick this off, because you're
Do
the
you got
one that
do you
brought
got
it
do
to
you
me.
have the coins?
Oh man, I don't know if I do. The cleaning lady just came
Well,
through. I'm gonna have to go dig up, but I
probably
can.
probably about 2 years ago, I've been I tinker on some stuff sometimes. I send John these little coins that I made, lightning powered coins. You could basically NFC powered lightning coins. You could put Bitcoin on them by touching them with your phone. And everybody I show these things to blew their mind. It's really magical to see Bitcoin just kind of moving through touch, especially small amounts like a penny or 2 pennies or 10 cents. And this was 2 years ago too, when not everybody's as familiar with Lightning, and it's crazy to see Bitcoin moving basically for free. Um, and John and I, we were brainstorming one day and talking about our kids, of course, and we had an awesome idea, which is a card for kids that they can use to do, they do things that they normally do around the house, and you could incentivize them in the same way by using this card to, every time they do the chores, take out the trash, whatever it is, they touch the card to your phone or your tablet, and boom, they get the Bitcoin immediately on their card. And this card doesn't take any batteries; it doesn't need to be charged. It's totally independent of anything else. So it's very convenient, even for a 3 year old, to just have this piece of plastic with this technology in it that allows them to have their own Bitcoin and kind of understand what that means and what that is. And it's a really, I think, amazing way of kind of bootstrapping that understanding of kind of working for your money and saving. And there's so many possibilities here with this.
Yeah, no, I think JC encapsulated it well. Like, one of the things that became clear to me when JC sent me these coins was just like, oh my God, she'll never hold a Bitcoin. Like it's like, right. Like, you got keys. It's like coins don't come out of the blockchain, right, kid? And how do I explain this to her, right? And that solved it, right? And kids are really like are really good tangible learners, right? Maybe visual, maybe audio. There's a lot of different ways, but it's tangible. It's not usually abstract at that age. And so it was clear to me that Aria was able to connect, like, working for something, money, this coin, Bitcoin, and it just like made sense to her, at least in a trivial enough way for me to be able to impart some like lessons around three things that were important. One, I wanted to make this thing tangible. It was clear to me something had to be tangible. Two, it needed to be something that ultimately incentivized behavior, because it got me out of trouble with the kids. I'm losing it sometimes, man. The kids don't listen. I give them some Satoshis, and it's like child crack somehow. and they listen and they go and do stuff. My kid was vacuuming yesterday. He can barely pick up the vacuum, but the kid is vacuuming. And like, all I have to do is offer like 20 sats. It works great. And so it's enabling child labor again and within the households. No, of course I kid, but it was tangible. It taught them, incentivize their behavior. And the other part of it is like, it was just kind of like when we're JC and I were brainstorming, I was like, dude, this is proof of work. We're proof of work for kids. Like, I'm like, this is the proof of work parenting tool. This is a tool for parents. It's a toy for kids. And so we made this like little credit card that was like kid friendly. I wish I had one here, which is so embarrassing I don't right now. But the idea was just to make something tangible, make it fun, and make it easier for kids to talk to parents about finance and money. And inevitably, if you know about Bitcoin, then and you want to prepare your kids for finance, and prepare from the world, then you're gonna have to prepare them to like figure out money. If you're gonna have to prepare them to figure out money, then you got to talk to them about Bitcoin. This is a really cool and fun way to do so. And so we really just took JC's chip and just started to like ideate around it, and out came the Satscentives card.
Very
I
cool.
think I want to get this. How do I get this?
Go to
I want to start incentivizing.
Satscentives.com. We should have a. Hey George, can you? This isn't live. I'm going to text George to we'll get a coupon code or something out for everybody here that's watching.
Okay, well there we go. We'll send out a coupon code, and that maybe we can put it in the YouTube notes so that anyone watching can get that. So, do you think? I'm curious. Like, do you think that your children attach value to it partially because you clearly place so much value in Bitcoin? Do you think there's a certain amount of education for children around what the value is? Or do you think it's, I mean, I think for my 3.5-year-old, for instance, connecting anything to like something that she already values is going to be really powerful in incentivizing her to do something. So I know, I can always use like Skittles, for instance. Skittles
totally.
blow her mind.
They don't denominate in Satoshis. They denominate in ice cream. They denominate in candy. They denominate in toys.
Maybe they're starting to do the math of like this many sats equals one ice cream cone. So
precisely,
that would be success. But how do you think about that?
So, I mean, I'll let JC jump in on this. So this is one of the early ideas. So we created an MVP product. God, we have so much to announce and I can't quite do it yet. So I have to like wait a few days because there's so much we're doing. But one of the things that we wanted to do was to gamify this for kids and develop an app around it. First thing we wanted to do was just like, hey, Bitcoin community, JC and I were bored one day. We built this thing. Do you guys want some too? Right. Literally, that's what we did. I'm not kidding. JC can tell you. And so I flew out to North Carolina and we created this whole thing. And so along with our partner, Tim. And so we there's just been a really resounding like, oh my God, we love this. And so the next steps were us first to really build an app around how to kind of coach parents through some of this as a community, build a real Bitcoin parent community around this where like we can share ideas, but also allow for them to maybe set goals and parameters. And this is worth this much and this is worth that much. We may create some QR code stickers that just go in various parts of the household. So that way, they're not taking out the trash 36 times a day, but we'll allow them to scan that once a day, right? Or put that near the dog bowl to filter, right? And find age appropriate things. But the reality of it is there's just like so many ideas that we have in order to like create incentives to ultimately like even try to sort of marshmallow test them into real yield, as I like to call it, where if they keep their sats there and don't spend it, they'll get some more sats. So, and JC and I and Tim have talked about like a lot of ideas. I'll let JC jump in on it, but I'll try not to spill the milk on this, JC. Big announcement.
Well, I mean, it's hard because there are, like you said, so many things that are happening right now that would be great to talk about. But I mean, the best part about it is that community, as you mentioned, helping parents and their kids have that relationship to learn about such an important thing like money and finances. And there are a lot of ways that this can be done through tools like this. It's deeper than just doing chores. It could also be learning how to save, learning what yield is, learning about even some more sophisticated finance concepts that you usually don't even see until you're 20s. You can, some of them are not, it'd be helpful to kind of have a more intuitive understanding of some of these concepts younger to prepare you for being successful as you grow. And I think that's the most exciting part to me is just being able to contribute these tools that can kind of prepare our children as Bitcoiners for this future that we live in, so that we can grow our community.
It's important to kind of keep in mind this only works with Bitcoin, right? And I won't be long winded here, but like one, like all the ideas of like doing this in fiat are not fun, personally. But two, like you don't really teach this idea of hard work through fiat. If you're really trying to teach someone about the fiat system, it's not about hard work. It's about like that you were born to rich parents more likely than not. I mean, statistics show it,
Yeah,
right? And
imagine trying to hold big. Imagine giving your kid $50 and saying, "You can't spend it till you're 18." You know, what's this $50? It's going to be $50, and it's probably going to be worth $2 by the time they're 18, or the equivalent of what you buy with $2 today. That's part of the power of Bitcoin, is that it is a savings technology. And I think, as John is kind of alluding to, you wouldn't want to do it with, sorry, Alex, maybe, but like Ethereum or anything, because who knows if that's even going to exist in 18 years, right? So this way, with Bitcoin, it's a very powerful way of kind of securing your
Let
future.
me pull on that thread. Let me pull on the thread about why not. So why not fiat, right? Because are you incentivizing spending? Are you incentivizing savings? Are you incentivizing savings? So you get some sats and you save them, and you get some more sats and you save them. So how do you teach through this what to spend on and what not to spend on?
Well, I'll just throw out some concepts, things that are things that are ideas that we can grow to, which are things like some of the things that we brainstormed initially. You could, as a parent, subsidize yield for your children based on certain things. Like you don't want to keep them from spending necessarily in all cases. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, depending on the type of gift. But as far as like for chores, maybe they won't care if they can't spend till they're 18. I would know I wouldn't. If I was a kid, you said, "Hey, you do your chores, I'll give you $10 to take out the trash." It's like, yeah, but I can't spend until I'm 18. Who cares, right? So it's like it doesn't really help. But so there are ways that you can incentivize saving without keeping them from spending, like subsidized yield from parents. You could have like a yield that grows the longer they save, for example. So they can spend, but then their yield gets reset back to 1. And this way they're like, man, I kind of do want, like, do I really want to buy like this remote control car? If I do, though, like I'm making so much yield right now, maybe like that'll hurt me long term. Like, look at all the money I could have made if I just wait. And that's the kind of pattern that I want to build into our children's mind. I don't want to like restrict them, but I want to teach them the consequence of spending your savings when they grow.
So one of the things that we did, Alex, and this is something we've toggled on, right? And we're not like I'm not necessarily sure that like a spend feature doesn't make sense down the road, right? Or a module for that. But the biggest thing I think about is like what I think is realistic and what I've done with Aria and what like mild focus testing we've done, which I promise we've done none. We're just having fun. Is like, all right, when Aria gets a certain amount of sats, and I'm using a different setup from our faucets from before, but nonetheless, I would just buy it. I would just buy it in fiat, and I want her to just keep it in her wallet in Bitcoin, right? And so, like, typically, what you're doing as a parent with these types of like, because we're talking about hopefully hundreds and thousands of sats, not hundreds of thousands of sats. Just to put an idea, like this isn't meant to be a wallet. This is really meant to be a toy. Like I'm one of the two, there's two experiences that I would hope to kind of see happen from this. One, kids literally take custody for the first time by using Satscentives. Like they literally are like losing this little piggy bank starboard, but we kind of mixed matched it, got rid of it and created the Satscentives card. And two, like maybe they like just by getting gifts from like aunts, uncles, grandparents or whatever and your parents for like 10, 12, 15 years. And just by doing chores and like, I don't know, picking up good habits and all of a sudden you look up when you're 17, 18, and you got like enough capital to launch your own business because you did it in Satoshis and not like fiat, that could be, that's just a crazy story. Like, a kid pays for law school or med school, like for that, like that would be an impossibly like, fun story and only possible if we were to do that in Bitcoin, in my opinion. So that was a little bit of the genesis of like hopes that we had. And I don't know, maybe we add a spend feature. We'll see.
Redeem for NFTs, Bitcoin NFTs. Satoshi.
We'll get them all on Counterparty, JC. We're going to get in trouble now.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna go there.
Don't do it.
I had to poke the bear. I had to poke the bear a little bit. The bear
Well, I
is
just like to
yeah.
remind everybody that NFTs existed on Bitcoin first. So I just like I have all these ETHs be like, well, Bitcoin, well, there's no NFTs on Bitcoin. I'm like, no, we just don't. We're actually trying to solve a real problem over here, guys. Trying to solve the. You guys keep playing video games over there. We're over here trying to take on central banks and making sure our kids have a nice future to live in. We'll take care of that for you. You guys join us when you're ready, okay? All right, Mandy.
And
I
it's
promise I'm done.
even tokens and stablecoins started on Bitcoin, by the way. So just saying.
It's true. You don't think NFTs are taking on the central banks, not doing the things Bitcoin are doing?
It's like the army wondering, or somebody wondering when the army is going to have like a better swimming team.
So true. So true.
Well, I want to go a little bit away from NFTs being on the central banks, if that's okay. But curious, when it comes to financial literacy, I guess moving away from Satscentives and maybe even Bitcoin. What do you think is successful for young people to kind of get introduced to basic financial literacy? I think I know the answer to this question, but how do you feel like financial literacy was introduced to you as a child? And do you think it was successful? I guess I am personally of the opinion that it's like a very understudied and underrepresented thing when it comes to curriculum in, the US. I'm not sure about around the world in schools, but curious on your take.
You want to go first, JC? Because I'm going to get in
No,
trouble
I
with my
mean,
mom.
I just so my mom, yeah, I didn't really we didn't really talk about. I mean, so my dad would give me. So my parents were divorced when I was 8, and I lived with my mom. But when I'd see my dad, they were the more, I guess, the working side of the family. And so when I'd see my dad or people on that side of the family, they'd always give me $20, sometimes a little bit more. And I'd usually just naturally save it because it was the only money I'd usually get. And then, of course, I'd spend it eventually. I wasn't like long term saving, but I didn't really have any guidance in that regard. Um, Except for maybe like what I felt at the time was too conservative, just too much like never spend your money ever on anything that's not going to like help you immediately in some way that was, I don't know, worthy. Whereas I would like, I'd like to eat sushi. Sushi's pretty cool. I think that's, but, um, so yeah, like I didn't really get much of a financial education. And that's one of the reasons I think I'm so passionate about this and kind of like being able to give those opportunities to my kids and help others too, and kind of give them a shortcut, hopefully. I think John's going to have some good feedback on this.
I mean, no, I mean, like, yeah, I grew up broke. There wasn't really a lot to like learn. My mom was like single widowed mother. Like it was four of us and like limited resources. Pretty much knew early on I was gonna have to figure this stuff out on my own, and still feel like I am every day, even as a parent. Like to be completely like humbly honest. But I'm old enough and recognize enough to have broken that kind of chain for my family, and it's really important. Like so, I feel like as a parent, you want to prepare your kids for life. You can prepare for life. How do you not talk about money? If you think Bitcoin is going to be part of this in 15, 20 years, and how do you not teach them about Bitcoin? It's like that's the throughput for me. But yeah, it's just like my mom didn't know what the hell she was doing, right? She taught me a few things. Most of them didn't make sense until Bitcoin. Like for instance, she said, "Work really hard. That's going to be the difference." I did. I worked hard. I was really like innately motivated. No one had to like pat me on the butt, tell me I was doing a good job or tell me to work harder. I always just did that. And then she told me to save my money, and really until Bitcoin, it didn't make sense to. Saving my money really meant investing my money. My mom didn't know what that meant, right? Like she, like she wasn't investing in equities and bonds, right?
Yeah.
Like as someone who was like earning 25 grand a year. So yeah, it was just it's such an absent thing. And then in terms of like curriculum in school, it's just like my mom's about to kick me. I'm so glad we already had Easter brunch because what I'm about to say is definitely going to get me uninvited. But I learned way more about Jesus in elementary school and way too less about finances. That would have been really helpful.
Is that why you're the father of the Bitcoin church now?
I would dare to say Sunday Satoshi service probably wouldn't have worked as well if I wasn't traumatized by early Catholic school. I mean,
John, you remind me of something I think relevant here, which is that I, of course, was always bad at saving. I was very frivolous. I mean, maybe I still am, but Bitcoin kind of tricked me into saving because I didn't really see it as like when I was first buying Bitcoin. I didn't really see it as like money I'd go buy a sandwich with. I saw it as like this, I don't know, like I didn't think of it as saving, even though like I'm trying to save it, and it was saving in a way, but I didn't think of it as saving. And then as it continued to grow, it's like it became meaningful to save. Like with dollars, if I got hardly any money and I put 100 of it away and I work my butt off doing whatever and I put another $100, it just you don't get anything. It's like you get the same money back. That's probably worth less than it was when you started. But with Bitcoin, the more you save, the better it does for you. People complain and sometimes that Bitcoin is doesn't produce any yield like maybe a real estate investment does, but it doesn't have to because it grows so much faster than real estate that it's magical. It's like it tricked my brain into never wanting to spend. It tricked my brain into thinking like I need more Bitcoin. I got to have more savings because it's actually worth saving in. And I don't know. I think if it wasn't for that, like I never would have been able to do it.
I'm curious. So, I mean, let's project in 15 or 20 years when our kids are grown adults and, say the price of Bitcoin is all of a sudden a lot less volatile and there are a lot more businesses that are taking Bitcoin as payment and it's more of a, peer-to-peer kind of method of exchange. Does that change the math for our kids, do you think? Like maybe things are going to look really different when they wake up and they realize they're 20 and they have the Satsentive card that has some Bitcoin on it. What do you think?
I mean, I think that Bitcoin's not going to be as volatile as it is now, but it's always going to be a good investment or a good place to store your value because it's reliable. And to the extent that it, in my opinion, and of course I'm very bullish about Bitcoin, when it finds the fair market value, I think the fair market value for Bitcoin is a store of value or a measure of value for the entire global economy. And so in that sense, as humans, as we produce more value as a society, um, we are that value is measurable in Bitcoin and in the market cap of Bitcoin. So I think that's a pretty nice way of storing your own value, kind of like pairing it to society's productivity.
Mm.
Um, I think I just to piggyback a little bit, like whenever I travel abroad. Okay, so this is something I think Bitcoiners get hung up on. Oftentimes, it's just like, when are we going to pay for things in Bitcoin, and or like when's the world's unit of account going to be? So here's what happens: you travel anywhere abroad for more than 4 days, and your brain translates into that local currency and the value system, right? So if like money is language and it's just telling you what everything is worth in relation to each other, it takes like 3 or 4 days in a foreign country. I challenge you: next time you guys go to a foreign country and you got to operate in a non-dollarized economy. Which is more difficult now. Everyone uses credit cards and they get like free foreign exchange. But anyway, if you're exchanging currency, you start to understand what it costs in the local currency, and that's what Bitcoin will look like. Our kids aren't going to be thinking about these things. Like they're not going to think about investing in Bitcoin. They're not going to. They're going to own Bitcoin. They're going to transact in Bitcoin. They're going to, you know. Trade equity for stakes in companies in Bitcoin, right? Like there's going to be all types of just it's just going to be Bitcoin. Now I don't know when that is, but I imagine sometime in my kid's lifetime or theirs, and hopefully mine. That'll be the case. But like, I just think those types of things won't even matter. Like they'll just like we will be so like we'll laugh sort of about it, right? Like it's like our parents using a computer versus our kids using a computer. It's like so drastic, and I just think that's what it's going to be like. Really similarly with Bitcoin. So more of a macro view there. Yeah, and then mostly I agree with JC.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, later on, all this will be obfuscated. It'll just be a layer of the internet. It's like we're using HTTP. Like, okay, I guess we are using HTTP, right, or www, but nobody thinks about that. Yeah, it's interesting. And I think I know we're moving off of the kid stuff, but I don't think they're ever going to be in a world where people actually spend Bitcoin. I mean, you'll borrow against your trader. There'll be some other or there'll be some other currency. Bitcoin, before was a cryptocurrency. It's not really a cryptocurrency anymore. It's a digital asset. It's like land. I mean, this is the biggest sailor, the biggest sailor talking point, which I think is right. But yeah, I don't think they're ever going to be spending in Bitcoin. I mean, they'll be spending in something else.
I need to get you to download a Lightning wallet when you get your Satscentives card. So that's gonna change things for you. I mean,
Listen, I'm all with Lightning, right? But the Bitcoin, the point is, it's like
we
you
may
can
be in
make
a world where people only
money
accept
except how.
Bitcoin. Is what you might like. You
Yeah,
might find
maybe,
yourself in a place where they're not going to accept Wall Street bet
maybe.
memes, and they're not going to accept
No, but it's not going to be
Dogecoin.
that. It's
You
not going to be
know,
that.
I
I don't
mean,
think
I'm
it's
not
going to
even
be
the
that.
Bitcoin maxi that like thinks that like fiat currencies may not exist in the future. I don't know. I think maybe fiat currency like I don't even have like this like full myopic view of like what hyper Bitcoinization looks like. But like the spend thing to me, I agree with you. I think it's so not important. It's like people in your lives, like the normies in your lives, come to you like, "Oh, I heard this place is accepting Bitcoin." I'm like, "Great, they'll never get mine." Right, Alex? Right? Like I'm not,
Exactly.
you're not going to get my Bitcoin. But I actually think the biggest hurdle to like Bitcoin transactions isn't actually the technology or the layer, the second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever layers that we wind up living on and interacting with on a more realistic level in 20, 30 years. But like, I don't know. I hate taxes. Like I'll spend $16 on a transaction to get a bagel and a cup of coffee, and I gotta like get that back to my accountant. That's just a really inefficient thing to do. And so I think like until we have like some basic de minimis laws, I think there'll be a lot of Bitcoiners. The moment we get like $500,000 transaction de minimis, kind of like green light from the IRS, I think a number of Bitcoiners will move on to zero in a more realistic way. And I think people would love to transact in it because I love to transact in Bitcoin when it makes sense because it's just such a better way to transact.
Yeah, it's actually
Yeah.
easier too.
Well, go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
sorry. I think that's something that isn't really appreciated. We take for granted how easy it is to use our cards, our debit cards, etc. But you ever get those messages when you go to New York Times website and it says, "Hey, you want to read this article? Only pay $1. You can read. Sign up for 2 weeks." There's plenty of times where I would pay $1 to read this, but I'd know that if I click that button, I'm going to have to fill out all these forms: my name, my address, a 16-digit code, a 3-digit code, zip code. Like, it's going to take me 5 minutes to get to read this thing. I don't want to spend 5 minutes, but I'd pay $1 if I could just pay the dollar. If they accepted Bitcoin, I could just scan the QR and be done. And they wouldn't have to know who I was or care. I pay $1 per article. That's fine. I don't care. If I want to read it, I want to read it. But it's just so tedious to use our current finance tools. And it's so much easier to use Bitcoin. I think that's something, once you start using Bitcoin more, you realize it's actually easier. It's actually easier to use than what we already have. And so it makes sense.
It's different. It's different. And when we have to change habits, it's different. Like I remember the first time I used an Uber, it took me forever to use Uber for the first time. I didn't use Uber to like, I don't know, maybe like 15 or something like that. I don't even know. But I remember there was a lot of people who used Uber before me. And the first time I used Uber, then I never used anything else. It was like never went back to taxi. And so habits can be tough to change, but when it's a superior thing, you find that you typically don't have to change back. I remember before the pandemic, Mandy, I used to go into Target. I used to go in there and fight all of you that are way better at this than me. Um, you, my wife, and all the other moms that are way better at Target than me. You got
I'm
like
a
I don't
Target
ask.
expert. I'm
It
a
is
Are
a
freaking
you?
Target expert.
Dude, man, if I
Uh,
don't ask the people that work there. If I can't find something, I ask a mom. I just ask her, like I ask the mom that has the most kids. She knows where everything is.
don't dethrone the self-proclaimed king of Target. Okay,
Hey man, hey, hey, if you want to go on a date to Target with me sometime, that would be great.
let's do it. It's always on
But
aisle five. That's the rule of Target.
my overarching point is, man, that
Target now. It's called Shipped, and I don't have time to go to
thank you, thank you.
Target.
Or if I do, it's like I do the order pickup, and like I get there, they throw the stuff in my trunk. I'm like, wait, you mean to tell me someone will walk around the store and put this all for me? And they'll drop it off in my trunk, and I don't have to sit here and deal with all the other humans. This is amazing. And so, like these are the types of things like once you do it once, like then you just don't ever do it again the other way. And I think using and transacting in Bitcoin, especially Lightning, is such an easier way to do that. Like JC's point around like the transaction piece, which I won't go further, but we built this Satscentives piece on Lightning. It would not work in any other way, right? Because what we want to do is to give kids 3 and 5 and 8 cents at a time. How do you do that in fiat if you don't have change laying around, right? Like, you keep change around for that, right? Like, what do you do? Like, run a transaction that has $3 processing fee for like a 20 cent like thing. Whereas I can just stream sats and be able to catch on to, I don't know, Mandy's content or be able to go on and get, something from Lynn Alden or whatever. Right. And so like, just like there's, Lightning makes me so bullish. Like I love Lightning. Like I used to be kind of like I used to bat an eye at it. I used to be like, oh, okay, these weirdos, it doesn't work. And then I've watched the community of people on Clubhouse, especially JC. I'm sure you were part of as well. Not me, but I got a node and running with them. But like all those guys that are on PlebNet, they added like 1,000 Bitcoin to the thing. They were like opening thousands of channels, and like it just like kind of exploded the Lightning network over the last year. So it's been fun.
Well, I feel like we would be remiss to not mention that OKCoin's it was the
Oh
first
yes,
exchange to have a Lightning node. We have the
let's
13th,
go.
13th largest node by capacity. So
Let's go.
That's why I love OKCoin, by the way.
Bitcoin has
Oh, I actually owe another shout out to Okcoin, and I know all the Bitcoin maxis are gonna call me out on this, but they're gonna, oh, you're a shill. I do not get paid by Okcoin. I just like these
I will
guys.
shill OKCoin because they support Lightning. I love Lightning that much.
They were the first. I love that. But here's the other piece. Hyder came on to Sunday Satoshi service and waited in line, and this was like at the height of Sunday Satoshi service, and he made a confession and he like announced his penance. And this was because you guys were amongst the first, if not the first, exchange that delisted BSV because they are the doo-dooiest of doo-doo scammy coins that ever existed, in my opinion. So shout out to Hyder and the team at OKCoin.
Yeah.
I
Do you think
see.
that OKCoin's been ahead of the curve in a lot of ways? I mean, nobody is like this is my own brain wanting to just give props right now. They definitely, like, you can tell. I like OKCoin. I mean, supporting Lightning when they did too. That's amazing. So
well, we
We will
appreciate it.
take it. Yeah, we will take all the praise. I just want everyone to know that everything was my idea, and so I deserve all the credit for everything OKCoin never does. So just
Alex personally paid the $1 million to Bitcoin core developers that OKCoin is taking
what
credit for.
else did I do, Mandy? Tell me more.
Did you guys really give $1 million? Did you guys really give $1 million to devs?
It's like 1.2 now. Yeah, we've given to
That's what's
Bitcoin
up.
core. Mm-hmm.
That's
We give
awesome.
a lot of the grant. We do it kind of quietly because it's the right thing to do. But we support a lot of the core Bitcoin devs.
that's awesome.
Yeah, underneath the surface, we bleed orange.
I see the wink winks from the OK crowd. I'm out with Jeff and you guys out in Miami, and I see them be like, listen, we're competing here in a tough market, but we're maxis. We're maxis. I heard it.
It's true. We always start with Bitcoin, and most of the leadership team here are very, very passionate about Bitcoin and making sure we do the right things for the Bitcoin ecosystem. So
Yeah.
I would even venture to say all.
Oh,
So, okay, we've got a little bit of time left. We like to wrap up with a little thing we call okay or not okay. So, Alex and I are going to throw some topics to you guys, and you have to say okay or not okay, and you can tell us a little bit why you think that. First topic is Elon Musk taking over Twitter.
I really don't. I mean, I don't know. Is he better than some other guy taking over Twitter? Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I guess if I don't like it, I don't have to use Twitter.
So, you're in okay?
I guess, yeah, I'm okay with it. I don't think it's
Yeah,
perfect.
I'm okay. I mean, I'm not okay with all the Bitcoiners loving Elon, hating Elon, loving Elon, loving anyone, hating anyone, loving anyone. Just TikTok next block. If Elon can make Bitcoin or Twitter a better place and fix it, great. And if not, then you know shame on him. If it's the same censor land that it's been, and if it's keeping people from being able to participate in the public square, then I have issues with that. And if he can get rid of all these damn bots, man, my trade is going terrible. Okay, for all of you that want to ask me 30 times a day, my trade is going. No, I'm just kidding. I don't trade. I hodl. So that's how my trade's going. But
was
yeah, I think
about
I'm
to
okay with it, and I hope he gets it done.
I was about to ask these trade shills, what are they all about? I have a second.
You don't get them in your inbox? How
Oh,
would
I
you
get
trade?
not
Oh, okay.
just not from you.
Sure.
Just not from
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was like,
No.
okay, here, I have one. Doge wrapped on Bitcoin. Be Doge. Okay or not okay?
Doesn't matter. People will do whatever. It's an open system. If people want to use it, that's fine.
It's I just want to see the internal battle between the libertarian and the
Oh, I'm
and the
not a libertarian. I want to be
anti-Dogen.
clear. I am not a libertarian.
Well, here's the
So, and
difference.
you know what, by the way, and a lot of these Bitcoin libertarians, you know who helped me realize this? Junseth. Junseth helped me realize everyone's libertarian until it bothers them, and then they stop being libertarian. Okay, so I don't believe in that. Here's what I would tell you. So there's a free market element into me, like that, like wants things to be able to exist, but I also recognize that, like, a football game without rules is just a fight, and so like, and I think there's some limitations to like what needs to exist. So I'm not like complete like free market, like everybody gets to shoot each other in the middle of the streets, wild wild west play. So I try to take a pragmatic approach to this. I would tell you it makes me gag. That's what it does.
So this is the thing. Not being against it doesn't mean that I won't tell you. If you tell me, man, I'm putting all my paychecks into B Doge, I'm still gonna be like, that's not smart, man. That's really dumb. Like, I'm not gonna be like, oh, it's B Doge though, so it's cool. Like, but I'm also not gonna rally against like nobody should make a B Doge. I really, if people want to use it, whatever.
You heard it here, folks. You heard it here first, folks. B-Doge is the way to go. So, all right,
Okay,
Mandy, what's yours?
next one. Next one is your kids taking out a loan against your Bitcoin to buy a house. Okay or not okay?
My kid is not leaving. My son can leave. My daughter's staying. No, I'm kidding. Not okay. Um, well, a couple of reasons, and they're too pragmatic. But the reality of it is in 15 or 20 years, it'll probably make more sense to actually borrow against your Bitcoin because there'll be a more mature place, and the world will recognize that it's the most pristine collateral in the world. But the reality of it is also like, all the things that I'm doing won't require her to have to deal with those types of things. Is the alpha male voice in me right now, Mandy?
Fair enough.
I wouldn't
JC?
be okay with that. I mean, just for a lot of reasons, but the biggest one being like that means putting over collateralizing with a custodian, most likely. I mean, if there's some other way of doing it, I don't know. It depends, but also just, I mean, I don't know. If that's fiat is like free, fiat loans are free and cheap. So unless that changes, I think fiat loans are no brainer.
I have
I
one.
may I may also just advise her to just take. See, this is my kid's probably presumably 21. What I might just do is take about, I don't know, somewhere between 300 and 900 of those sats that she saved while vacuuming, in 2022. And I'm like, honey, instead of taking a loan against this, here's 3 to 900 sats. Why don't you go buy the nicest house on the block? Yeah,
It's like the like everybody's Brad Mills in 20 years.
I have a
that's my
follow-on.
answer. Take it, Alex.
I have a follow-on to this. Okay, a follow-on to this. Slight follow-on. Celebrities, two-parter. Celebrities shilling Bitcoin and celebrities shilling altcoins. Okay or not okay?
Well, I mean, it's a big difference there.
Yes. So can we do one at a time?
Yeah, do one at a time. That was a two-part.
I mean, telling people that nobody shilling Bitcoin. It's like shilling, as far as like the perverse incentives goes. It's like you're not going to pump Bitcoin because you shill it. Generally, it's Bitcoin's going to do what it does, and you're just telling people about something that you appreciate. I mean, maybe I don't know if they feel like they're going to pump it because they shilled it, maybe, but it wouldn't really matter. But when you're shilling like a shit coin, you're going to lose. People are going to lose money, and so like it's like you're shilling. It matters what you're shilling. If you're shilling scam, then of course that's unethical. And if you're shilling something that like you're profiting from and other people are going to lose money on, that's also unethical. But you know, nobody shilling Bitcoin can control it. So
Yeah, especially when we're talking about like our kids. Like I don't believe in anything being around. Do I think there's a non-zero chance that there could one day be something better or bigger than Bitcoin? No, I think there's a non-zero chance. It's not something I'd be willing to put money in. And so it's like to me, it's like saying, would you allow your kid to sell bottled water or cigarettes? Like, well, one I'm okay with, the other I'm not. And so I don't want to bash, like, I don't want to make this a bash on like on altcoins at all, but in my take, yeah, I mean, if someone felt compelled to shill Bitcoin, great. Whether they wanted to or not, that's great. I prefer that they do a good job of it and they actually have a good, strong understanding of it, so they don't put themselves in a position to un-orange pill, which I see quite a bit, not from celebrities per se, and then the show coins, which is more likely because usually they're centralized marketing budgets that can ultimately attract, a Matt Damon to do a crypto.com commercial. Excuse me for saying such blasphemy on such pure channels here, but all joking aside, yeah, I would say, I mean, do what you want. It's a free market. I won't stop anybody, but it's cringe for sure.
All
Oh, I
right.
mean, that means okay, right, Mandy? Is that what the answer was? Okay.
Yo, I don't know. Was that okay or not okay?
I'm okay with shilling Bitcoin. I'm not okay with shilling alternative currencies, altcoins. And if it had to be both, like, would you be okay with it if they shilled both? The answer would be no.
Hmm.
It's not worth it.
I'm with JC on that. But I still love you guys.
Well, with that, we have to wrap up, but this was a great conversation. Enjoyed covering all the things about being a Bitcoin parent. Make sure you check out the project, satscentives.com. Make sure you check out Okcoin, okcoin.com. And until next week, thanks so much.
Thank you, Mandy. Good seeing you again, Alex. Take care, JC.
Great to be
Bye,
on the show.
guys.